Well, I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. This is our first Central Ohio Stormwater Roundtable of the year. I'm Dave Reuter, urban conservationist with Franklin Soil and Water, here with my coworker, Brooke Fresher. We're the urban conservationists with the district, and stormwater is our thing. So we like stormwater, don't we? So in
Really
that
like
respect, we hope you like stormwater as well. This is your roundtable. We encourage feedback. If you have feedback, put something in the chat box as we go through this. It's really your roundtable. It's really our conversations. This is your chance to talk with your peers and really connect and get some understanding if you have questions about things like this. So today, as you can see, we're going to kind of take a deep dive into minimum control measure 6. It's something that's come up in conversations with us and with EPA and communities. So we thought we'd take a little bit closer look, especially how that relates to the current MS4 permit. So that's kind of the groundwork for what we're going to do today, a little bit of the agenda. Again, it's going to be more or less a conversation between Brooke and I about things we've seen and talked about in-house and with communities. And if you have input or comments, please feel free to join in with this. This is, like I say, it's a roundtable format, so let us know, give us some feedback.
Yep.
Just, I want to do a little bit of some good housekeeping of our own. And recognize our partner communities. Whoops, that went a little too quick. So our partner communities, help us to bring you this kind of content and bring you a lot of other things as well that hopefully are helpful to your communities and your staff. Please feel free to contact us with anything that you may have, questions you may have that we can help out with. So thanks again to our communities. One thing that our partners benefit from is having the CWP webcast series. This is this year's schedule for the CWP webcasts. Each one of these is individually about 125 bucks. I think they're charging to get these. And we offer these to our partners through a coalition, which, Brooke, if you got a little more information you want to talk about on the coalition.
I can unmute myself. Yes.
There you go.
Yes, I do. This is something, like Dave said, this is something that we did new last year due to COVID restrictions. We were unable to really have people come to the office and view these webcasts with us like we had in the past. So we started the coalition membership, which allows us to offer essentially free benefits to people that are interested. For up to 75 members is what we have right now. I still have with the membership comes the access to all the webcast series for the year, along with archived webcasts that the center has put on. You also get access to lunch and learns that they do, discounts for any of their conferences or other paid events. You can have access to those as well. Their online resource and library. So a lot of you, or not a lot of you, but I know some of you that are in today's meeting, I accidentally mute, that are already in this meeting are on the coalition membership as well. And so we're updating that right now. The membership is a yearly one. So we've just renewed that, and I've gotten some new people for that. I have about 20 spots still available for that. So I wanted to do a pitch today. If you think you might be interested, let me know today if you can, so that I can add you to that membership list. The first webcast for the center does start is it next week, the 26th of January. So I can definitely make sure that you get in there so that you can have access to all of those. And when you think about, the membership, some of the ways our partners are doing this is where one person might hold a seat for the membership, and then they can share that screen with their staff in a conference room or something like that, so that you can share that webcast with your own staff and still have the certificates and other access there. So if you are interested, please hit me up with information and I can get you set up with that. And I think, like I said, there's no cost for that. It's just something we're wanting to offer, and we might get to the point where we're doing some more in-person sharing of that moving forward, but it kind of depends on those COVID, kind of what we're seeing with COVID and those kinds of wanting to make sure everyone stays safe. So that's kind of my pitch on the CWP, I guess, for the moment.
And I think, the important part of this is the training that you folks need for, whether it's MPDS compliance or, professional licensing, something like that. I think this is something that's going to stay around is really this education through this kind of remote learning. So looking forward. Go ahead.
I feel like we had a pretty good participation for the first year. There was a little bit of hiccups, I think, on people understanding fully how to access all the benefits. So I'm going to try to do a little better job this year of coordinating some of that communication with the members and just reminding them of those. I'm also going to put a link in the chat here to everybody. If you're interested, it's just a constant contact link that you can put your information in there so that I can see if you're interested. And you can enter any other people that you might think you'd want. Oh, I'm sorry, that is the wrong link. That's the link for another training opportunity I'll talk about later. I'm sorry. Never mind. That's a different one.
For you.
I'm sorry. I got too many training options on my mind. So you can still look at that link, but that's going to be for something a little different. My apologies.
We'll be sure to get all the links in there for you to access. So. Thanks, Brooke.
Yep.
So I also want to plug OSWA, some of the upcoming events that they have, OSWA webinars. I'm also a board member of OSWA, so that lets me plug this if I see fit. So next one's coming up February 2nd. I hope a lot of you have benefited from those and continue to access those. They bring some good content that really has, kind of statewide implications to everyone. The next one is on post-construction BMP options for roadway projects with John Pryor from ODOT. They've got some new BMPs that are being approved that may have some broader application than just road projects. So that might be something to tune into. They are going to be charging this year for webinars. The benefit of that is really being able us to bring you the content, as well as giving you some added benefit by you either pay the $25 for the 4 quarterly webinars and spend $100, or you can get a membership to OSWA for $80. So I would encourage you, if you like those webinars, want to participate in them, maybe it's time to up your membership. If you're already a member, you get those free of charge anyway. But do consider that if you want to do that. Other things coming up, of course, are the conference in Sandusky this year again with the MS4 boot camp, which you, as a member, you also get a reduction on the cost of the MS4 boot camp with being a member. So there are benefits to that OSWA membership. If you do go onto the website or find one of the member forms, we are a division of WAMO. Be sure that you check the Ohio Stormwater Association box there on the form if you want to be a member of the OSWA. So keep that in mind. So let's get into permits a little bit. As you see here, this is the cover page from the MS4 permit. Came out April Fool's Day last year. those cheeky monkeys. It has a lot of changes in it. Most of those changes are related to TMDL language that came about because of the situation with the Great Lakes and compliance that they statewide needed with national policy and even international with Canada. So the Great Lakes Annex 4 requirements needed to be met, and that kind of tumbled into the general permit as well to meet that in a statewide fashion. So that's kind of where that's coming from. And if you don't know MPDS history, I really, it behooves you to take a look at some of these laws and where the, kind of the universe of regulation that we're in here. As you know, or don't know, I hope you know, Clean Water Act in 1972 was the MPDS point source, but that was really the start of the MPDS program. The 87 amendments created that phase 1 and 2 rules, and the phase 2, which are the small MS4s that most of us are under. There's only four large MS4s in the state. That Columbus is one of those. But the phase 2 rules are those small MS4s, and that's under 100,000 population, I believe, is what that entails. So most of our communities around Columbus are considered those small MS4s. State regulations, ORC 6111 is really the state hammer for complying with MPDS permit. That's where it says you will comply with those federal standards. And then the OACs, 3745 is that water quality standards, with the section 39 being the small MS4 rules. And you see those are effective since 2004. So, in a sense, I guess in my career, I don't think that's very long ago. We haven't been doing this very long, but maybe to some of you younger folks, it is a little bit longer. But this has been an ongoing thing for most of my professional career. Basically, I started in '89 when Waters of the United States came around, and the redefining of the jurisdictional properties, which we're still discussing to this very day. Just real quickly to here's an illustration of what we're talking about on MS4s. Now bear in mind, this was developed really more for an IDDE approach on how, if you have a home septic discharge to your MS4, what is considered that MS4. So it's those facilities that you take care of as a municipality. That's what they're considering as that MS4. Now, when we're talking about, maybe the public participation and outreach, we might be talking more about your municipal boundary. So there is a bit of difference between the MCMs, the minimum control measures, what we're talking about when we're talking about MS4s. So when it's public participation, an outreach, that outreach has to reach half of your population. Then we're maybe talking the entire municipal boundary. But when we're talking in an IDDE, and we have discharge that goes to your system, that is maintained by you, that's where those kick in, those requirements kick in that you may have to be compliant with. So something to consider as we go through and talk about some of these items. I think that's all I've got here. I want to do, let's see, what do I need to do here? Oh. There we go. Hopefully we're getting a share screen. That is not screen sharing, is it?
No, you're good. I am seeing the permit.
Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, I'm not.
That's a good question.
I've lost that screen now. Where am I at here? Bear with me, I'm sorry.
No worries. I guess while Dave's working on, just a reminder too to
do
folks.
Something.
Are
you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you seeing? Okay. Do you need me to keep? Okay, I'll let you go back.
Go ahead. If you had something to say, I was fumbling there.
That's okay. I was just going to say, and it kind of relates to training again, but just with, some of the general information you were going over there about good housekeeping and where everybody fits into it. That's part of a training that we can do with staff that you have as well, and just providing some of that general overview. So keep that in mind for your annual training needs. If you want us to come out to your site or do it for something virtual like this, we can definitely help you do that as well.
So what I've got here is the draft permit. This is the red line version. So you can see in here, there's various sections that were proposed in the draft. This was before the comments were made and submitted, and the new permit now is out. And what I've done here is basically gone through this red line version and taken and noted where changes have occurred in the final version. It's hard for me. I'm a visual person. I can't look at the black and white copy of the permit and tell what's changed or what was omitted. So I've gone through this, as fine a tooth comb as I can and updated this. I'll give you an example here. So here highlighted in this is this C that they've struck out, and that's been deleted there. And I've made that yellow so that I know that's something that's not in the final permit now. We can make this available to you as well. And I plan to kind of go through this and look at the various things. This is the complete permit. Here's something that this Appendix A, small MS4s and US EPA approved TMDLs, this was really what made the permit go from maybe 28 pages to 44 pages because of this appendix. So, there's a lot of changes overall because they did do some updating of language. They made some small changes, just some edits, but they did add some text in areas that are significant, and made some edits to the final version that don't show up in this draft version as well. So I've tried to note all those with comments in there. You're free to take a look at that. We'll have that posted up after this for your use as well. I'm going to focus on MCM 6. So you can see all the red markings that are in this. A lot of changes going on, a lot of things to look at and see what the comments are as far as the changes go. Here's a whole new section. This kind of thing comes about, these changes, because of the TMDL requirements now that are in there. So there's a couple of large sections that were in the draft that stayed in there, as well as some things that were taken out because they were found either too costly for communities to implement, or they didn't have the legal authority to really get some of those done. So there are those edits. Again, like I say, you can see these small yellow highlighted areas that are changes from the final permit to the draft permit as well. Let me get the MCM 6 here. As I scroll down, I went too far. Hold on a second. Nope, no, I haven't gone far enough. I still haven't found a good way to. If you're curious about the TMDLs, here's the Appendix A that has the TMDL pollutants of concern. Let's go down here. We look at, here's Franklin County. You can see the Metro Parks has a long list of areas that they have. And these are all based on our drainages, our watersheds. These are HUC 8 watersheds, I believe. Actually, those look like 12s or 14s, maybe even. But we have a long list of Franklin County that these TMDLs apply to. So as we go through some of these requirements, keep in mind that the TMDL performance standard is related to this Appendix A. So if you're listed in there, if you're a community that is in, the Olentangy or the Big Darby or Big Walnut, you may have these TMDL requirements to meet. There we go. So here's pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. So when we generally think about good housekeeping, we apply that to municipal facilities. And keep in mind that in the broader sense, these TMDLs really pull in almost all of the programs that we have into good housekeeping. This is part of your stormwater plan that you develop on how you're going to do outreach. A lot of the TMDL requirements now require addressing those TMDLs in your outreach. So your outreach is affected by TMDL performance standards. Your construction and post-construction is, as well as far as how your community treats development within your community. So in the sense of good housekeeping, it's a broader program that is looking at having your community do the right thing by the MPDS permit. You should be setting the example for development in your community and the public on how we operate within our communities. So keep that in mind. We'll talk specifically again on MCM 6 and what some of those changes are. You can see here's a couple of things in red. These are just little updates and clarifications. I have no comments from the changes here. So here again, performance standard, your pollution prevention good housekeeping program at a minimum shall include. So we've got annual employee training. Contact us if you need it. We've got plenty of options for you. We can help you take care of that. So here's something: your salt piles shall be covered with no run-on and subsequent runoff of salt. All tanks, brine, and other liquid road treatments shall have secondary containment or alternatively bollard or barrier protections. So the difference that was proposed in the draft and the difference with the new permit is they added, you've got 2 years to complete that with the re-up of your permit time. So everybody who has a permit probably got notice of that. If you've got salt piles that need covering, you've got 2 years from now to get that taken care of, or secondary containment or some kind of protection for your salt piles. Ditch maintenance. This was another thing that changed kind of significantly from the draft. Let me get my draft comment coming up there. So something that they did with this was change. They kind of reworded it, and it's reflecting the construction general permit stabilization table that shows, if you're within 50 feet of a waterway, you should be stabilizing within 2 days, and that kind of thing. So this might affect some operations within a lot of communities on how they do ditch maintenance, but that's as you go about your work. And if you're close to a stream, you need to think about that within 50 feet buffer and how you're going to stabilize that. So that's pretty much what we ask development to do. It's the same thing on a developed site. If they are within 50 feet, they're required to do that stabilization. This is again where the community is asked to treat your projects like you would other projects in your community as well. This is one, develop and implement a stormwater outfall and drainage system maintenance program to ensure that stable outfalls and conveyances are provided. So again, this was originally in the draft permit. This is something that has been deleted, and this is a direct result of comments from communities. So this is a area that I want to point out, if you want to make comments, or should have some interest in this, because it really does affect what your community does. And the only way you're going to get input is during these, these draft times where there's comment periods. Take a look at this stuff and understand what's going on. Really see how that's going to affect your operation. It can make a difference. This was one that was deemed, fairly expensive for a lot of communities that don't have the resources to do this kind of thing. So that was one instance where they've actually deleted something out of that draft. So number 7 here is the TMDL performance standard in Appendix A. You can see that if you have any of these, and that's something to keep in mind again, a lot of these performance standards are based on that Appendix A inclusion. So be aware of that. Take a look at your community. Is it on the list? Is it not on the list? You know, are you in those watersheds? And really take a look at what is required of you to meet those TMDL performance standards. There is some difference there. Again, I will just look at the comment areas, but everything you're seeing in red that is not highlighted is basically something that will come up as a performance standard in your community if you are in that Appendix A. This develop and implement a proactive catch basin cleaning. What was in the draft is catch basins shall be cleaned whenever materials, it was kind of prescriptive and when you were supposed to be cleaning catch basins, and that's been changed to catch basins shall be scheduled to be cleaned once every permit term, basically, or once every 5 years. So they've changed that kind of prescriptive language to a more generalized, hey, you need to look at your system during the permit term and make sure that it's working. So it's a matter of just keeping your BMPs, you know, functioning is really what they're looking at. And here again, you know, your pollution prevention good housekeeping program shall include at a minimum one of the following performance standards. So you need to be doing one of these if you're in that TMDL appendix. And it's you know, one of the following performance standards. So you can either do, you know, leaf collections. I know a lot of communities do that. A lot of communities clean their basins, you know, proactive street sweeping. You know, I think this is something that's pretty low hanging fruit for most communities. They're doing maybe all 3 of these, not that big a concern for most people. They did add text here, and let's see if my text will come up. Oh yeah, this is the added text about facility inspections. We've had some conversations in-house about facility inspections due to the fact that it's been kind of like the language has been use the industrial permit as your template for how you conduct facility inspections. So we've kind of used that template for developing some of our checklists for that and approaches, but there's still some, it's not very clear on what exactly is required, what's suggested, you know, and what's needed. So Brooke, do you want to fill in some more on that?
Yes. Give me a second here to find my, when you were talking, I wanted to make sure I pulled up the not just the red line version, but I wanted to pull up the other one that kind of shows some more of that text that you're talking about that they added. So I might, Dave, are you still screen sharing?
I am. You want me to stop?
Maybe stop screen sharing for a second and I will try to screen share what I've got for a moment here.
So yeah, facility inspections, you know, according to the industrial permit, they should be done quarterly, and there's also a monitoring of an outfall requirement in there. That hasn't been really outlined as something that's required in the MS4 permit, but it is suggested that one of your quarterly inspections be done during wet weather.
Right. And so this is kind of the conversation that we've had recently with communities. And so on this screen that you're seeing, this is the final draft permit. And so this text here is what Dave's talking about there that was added. And so again, this is under that TMDL performance standard. So this is, again, an optional thing really but they wanted to include somewhere because through apparently EPA's interaction with communities and seeing what they were doing. A lot of communities were interpreting the initial, maybe I'll scroll back up to there in a minute, but a lot of companies or communities were interpreting the language in the MS4 permit where it's talking about needing to develop a SWIP for your applicable sites, and referencing the industrial permit. It isn't referencing like section 5 in the industrial permit, which really just outlines what needs included in the SWIP itself. The inspection area is actually in section 4 of the industrial permit. So a lot of communities were thinking that that didn't apply because it wasn't specifically listed that way. I interpret it differently. But either way, they've now included this language here in the TMDL performance area that talks about doing routine facility inspections and kind of listing out a little bit more what they expect to see in that. Again, this is all straight from the industrial permit. I think it's kind of interesting that there's been some discrepancies in how people are interpreting that. I'm going to move this over here actually. So during their audits, they found some different ways people were going about those inspection requirements. So you, like Dave's saying, the minimum that we would say is to do the 4 quarterly inspections and make sure that one of those is being done during a wet weather event. And that will be the minimum that you should be doing. I still think based on the language that, let me go back up to the initial, where it talks about your facilities, because that's where they kept that language the same, essentially, I believe. Discharge going. Let me see. Find myself where I'm at. Sorry, guys.
I did the same
curious.
thing.
Yeah. Let me let's see.
It's that black and white permit language. It's tough to look at sometimes. But yeah, I think the inspection aspect, something that we're going forward with and recommending is those quarterly inspections. During one of those, during a wet weather event, and while you're out there in a wet weather event anyway, take a visual sample, take a jar, gather some of that runoff and look at it and see if there's oil and grease, if there's foam, if there's cloudiness, and just record that. It's just as easy as doing that and having at least one of those sampling episodes for your site.
Right. Exactly. And EPA did have, I was having a little trouble. It looked like they changed their web link for their MS4 site, and I'm having trouble accessing it right now, but they had a couple example videos on there from other states on how to collect samples, whether you're collecting it from an actual outfall or maybe you don't have any outfalls and everything sheet flows through, a parking lot or a swale or something like that. So how to just collect a representative sample. You don't need to have it sampled, like sent anywhere for testing. You're just looking for a visual look to see if there's any sediments or, oil sheens, any trash or things like that, just so it kind of alerts you to maybe some things that you could be doing a little differently on your site to prevent those types of things from getting off site. And so it's really just to help you understand better how your site's functioning. Everything when it's dry, you don't have much going on, but so the wet weather inspections are real important, I think, to just have a better understanding of that. And so again, it was in the same section, just I scrolled too far down. So the initial language is again just talking about that any facilities, vehicle maintenance, bus terminals, composting, impound lots, waste transfer stations, anything where you've got fueling stations, salt, brine, vehicular maintenance going on, you should really have a SWIP. It's really, and anything you're looking at, things that are exposed to stormwater essentially during those inspections. So thinking, about what you've got outside, that could be either drainage, either rainfall falling on, or maybe gutter discharge washing across and interacting with things. So making sure things are up off the ground, tarped, and covered appropriately. But so again, there's just a little in the MS4 permit, it just isn't as clear to me as when you're reading the industrial permit on some of those, what I think are really things people should be doing on sites. And we have, for people, I'm sure most people do have their own checklists that they use for their sites, but we do have a couple very generic documents that we put together for helping people kind of think about those 4 quarterly inspections and the visual inspection of your stormwater. And so I've kind of combined these. So like, just as an example, and this would just kind of vary depending on what kind of things are really applicable to your site. But, things you're going to be checking for quarterly, you're going to be walking your site, and you're going to capture some pretty generic information about what's going on at the time. But any stormwater structures, that could be just inlet structures, maybe you've got a basin or some swales or things like that that are controlling for volume or water quality, inspecting those for are they clogged, is there debris, erosion, invasive plants, things like that that might need to be dealt with. Your equipment and maintenance storage areas, are things clean, is there any leaking, things that are leaking. Pretty easy stuff to kind of really see when you're walking around your site. Stains on the ground, material storage area. So if you've got street sweepings that maybe you accumulate somewhere while you're waiting to have them hauled off, loading and unloading areas for your salt. Any dumpsters is a big one. Making sure you have lids on them, the areas around them are clean. Fueling areas, again, getting a fueling area under cover is just such a great improvement to do if you don't have a cover already around your fueling area. Just thinking again about the interaction of the rainfall coming onto the area. And when you're looking at your filling stations too, and even your salt areas, do you have an inlet nearby? Think about some of those easy access points. Do you have spill kits nearby? Does everyone know where they are? Do you have, people clear on shutoff valves and how to find those things? These are simple things that, all your staff that utilize your site or access it should be aware of, some pretty basic information on who to contact or if they see something that needs addressed. So again, these are very simple things to look at. And then the only thing with the wet one here is just a virtual inspection of your stormwater discharge. And this just goes, so you do your 4 quarterly, one of those. So you do 3 dry weather, say, and one of yours is a wet weather. So then you pull out this form as well. Take a look at your discharge points, and you could identify an actual outflow that you use that's representative of your site. Again, or if you're doing a sheet flow, maybe you don't have an actual outfall. Just identify where you're collecting that sample from. And again, all you're doing is really just a visual look. Is there sediment in it? Is there any oil sheen? And if it's, if you do see sheen, is it continuous or discontinuous? Is it organic and matter from maybe leaves, decomposing, that would be blocks, or discontinuous. Odors, floating materials, anything like that. And you're just, you just want to capture that. And again, it's to really help you understand your site better. And maybe you need to make some improvements, to your site based on some of those things that you're seeing. And if you do make improvements, I guess that's the time to think about, you need to update your SWIP accordingly, update your map, and make sure staff know of any changes that are going on there. And I feel like I am kind of rambling into a lot of different things with this, but
it's the deep dive. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And so I guess the other thing that came up too, not just about inspections and what kind of frequencies people maybe should be doing, came up the shared use of facilities. We have some communities that maybe have a couple different sites that they use for maintenance, different kinds of activities, and some actually lease some space or share space with other entities. And so there were some questions about, do I really need to develop a SWIP for that? Are we responsible for that? And the answer is yes. Essentially, if you are leasing building space from another entity for maintenance activities, then the MSU as an MS4 need to develop a SWIP for the space in which those activities are occurring. So, and it'd be a good idea, to know too, whoever you're leasing space with, maybe they're doing operations too, that make sure you understand each other on what kind of things are happening, and share training, share that information. The thing I would stress is if you're only doing a little bit of activity in a situation like that, maybe look at moving that activity to a site that you fully own as your, and limit don't spread out and have all these little areas that, you have like a fueling, area at this site, and then you've got maybe try to, find a way that you can put them all in one in one site so that you're not, putting yourself in a gray zone of, well, it's this entity's responsibility. And so you need to be aware anywhere you're doing those kinds of activities, you should have a plan in place and people should understand what they need to be looking at. Let's see here. I feel like there was something else I wanted to go there, but feel free. Hop in there.
I was just going to say something about the salt piles. That's a good point about the covered salt piles, and not only that, but there is new language in there about run on and subsequent runoff of salt. So
right.
It's not just a matter of covering your pile. It's if there's a discharge that's actually making it to a catch basin. I've actually seen several facilities that have problems with, the brine that's created from either run on coming underneath the pile and through the pile and out the other side of the pile. That's the kind of thing that they're really looking at abating is that addition of salt. So if be cognizant of your salt piles, especially if we have a bad winter where you have to store it outside or something like that. Make sure you're doing it on a impervious surface. It's covered. You're cleaning up. You don't have run on and run off problems. Just be aware of that if you have salt.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just something in general, anything that's outdoors, that you have, thinking if you have gutters that discharge to pavement, is there something down from where that water that it's going to interact with something and make it, easily washed away? Even if it's got maybe a tarp on top, is it still in contact with the pavement? Just thinking about ways you can redivert some of that discharge. Can you take it inside or undercover somewhere else to limit that interaction altogether? Let's see here. If you're not familiar, EPA has been updating their website links and pages, and so we might. I'm still finding that
they've recently updated it, haven't they? It's changed a bit.
And the bookmark that I had for the stormwater page is no longer working, so they must be updating that at the moment. So there's some thing there still apparently going on. So let's see. Did I have anything else with this regard? Oh, I guess I will throw this out there. We did this a little bit a year ago, maybe, on just trying to remind people of, good times to conduct inspections. I'm going to try to work with putting together a quarterly reminder email out to most of our local partners. So if you're interested, I don't want it to go out to everybody and not be applicable, to people, but if you're interested in just being on the list of a quarterly reminder email, I'm going to try to do that just to help kind of get people that if you're having trouble getting into a rhythm with it. I mean, again, you'll have easy access to those two, generic documents should you need it. And I'll also do a push here now for this online portal training that we've got, again, to kind of help with that annual training requirement. We've, again, due to COVID, we kind of had to get away a little bit at the time from doing in-person training. And so we went virtual with doing an online portal with XCal Visual, which is a company we've used in the past for training courses and DVDs. But right now, so partners, we've got quite a few people that took advantage of it this year. It's a free option still. If you are local, if you're within Franklin County, municipality, township, county that is interested in just providing some good generic information on stormwater pollution, prevention to your employees, whether it's new employees, seasonal, just refresher training in general. They're online courses that they can take at their discretion when it's available, when it's convenient for them. We track it all, in there, so we know who's completed what. And they take, roughly between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on the topic, and we can assign different ones. There's quite a few different courses we have. If you're interested, that's the link that I inadvertently shared earlier. That's a constant contact survey. If you are interested in doing this, again, you can send me just a direct email or message, and I'll get you some more information on that. But we'll be doing that again this year. And you can do that either, again, you can sign up all the employees you have, and they can have their own access if they've got their individual emails, or you can have one person at your facility that has the seat, and then they can share it on their laptop or, to other staff, and get the training done that way too. And that's just to help supplement when we haven't been able to get out to a physical site and do the walkthroughs and in-person training. So please take advantage of that. If you're one of our current partners, it's there for you to utilize. I'll do a push for that.
And we can certainly help with if you have questions or need help with facility site inspections, let us know. We can certainly help you with that as well.
Oh yeah, we've been talking a little bit more about that. And you definitely want somebody from your facility doing in those walkthroughs for sure. So if you are thinking about maybe having someone else take over some of that responsibility, just make sure that you still have one of your at least one of the people at that facility tagging along through that inspection as well. That's a permit requirement as well. Let's see, I think it's the webcast. I think that's all I have. So I will stop sharing for a moment and turn it back over to you, Dave.
Well,
if there's any questions or people.
I'm not going to reshare my document. That the rest of the red line was pretty much changes made to reflect the annual reporting, and I did just want to touch on that a little bit. We are getting to that time of annual reporting, so there's numbers that need to happen, especially with MCM 6 and the new draft of the new permit. Pretty much lists out what was in the annual reporting as far as gallons of pesticide used, your road salt usage, pounds of fertilizer, all that kind of thing. Again, that time of year is coming up. We do a lot of that reporting for communities, and we are pushing to get that information in so we can get it entered by the April 1st deadline for the annual report. With that is updates to your stormwater management plan for this new permit. They want you to submit one during this round, but it doesn't really apply until next reporting. So I'm and I think there's even language about you've got 2 years to update from the permit renewal. So I need to double check on that, but
yeah,
we are currently updating a lot of stormwater management plans to reflect the new permit conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got enough time to let's just open it up now. I don't really have too much more there on MCM 6. Do we have any questions or comments, or anybody want to share? Right.
Feel free to type things in or unmute yourself. I don't see any current comments in the chat box for questions, but if you're doing something specific at your facility, or if you just have questions on things, please. This is just an open dialogue.
That's because we covered it so well, they're speechless.
Yeah, that could be it.
This is why we keep the Zoom meetings to an hour, because after that, everybody's just zoning out. So,
yeah. Let's see. We've had a good.
Nothing out there.
Nothing out there yet. Give people maybe another minute or so. I don't have any poll questions today for folks. I guess trying to think if there's anything particular I'd ask people to maybe share. And let's see. So Kathy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As far as wetlands and creating wetlands, that should get more credit than retention basins, because they work so much better to capture toxic substances in runoff, and they fit more naturally into the landscape.
Yeah, so there is recommendations about the table 4B practices, especially for TMDL reaches. There's an opportunity for communities to do more green infrastructure under their permit as credit towards their TMDL compliance. So I definitely think we're moving more towards that water quality aspect. When you have the 4B practices should be in place within everybody's regulations. So everybody should be considering those types of practices before they go to the stormwater pond. So we're getting there, and I think this this addition of TMDLs into the MS4 permit is going to kind of really start heading that direction.
Okay, that's good.
So I also see a question, thought that the updated swamp was due on the 22 report for 21. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at too. Yeah, I
It's
think it
listed that
is.
way, as that an updated swamp needs to be submitted with this year's report. I think there might just be within that. So you're right, Kathy. It is something that they're going to ask for to be submitted, but you might not have to have everything implemented at that point. So maybe that's where some of the confusion, there's a little confusion, I guess, on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're trying to kind of be proactive and have these swamps effective for the next 5-year permit term. So getting it updated is kind of our priority as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's see here.
I think we're about approaching our time, aren't we?
Getting there. Yep. About.
Got enough for a few more questions if we got any?
Yep. We'll give folks another couple seconds.
Another couple seconds and we're shutting it down.
I need the Jeopardy music in the background. Yeah. No, we'll give them more than a couple seconds.
I think that'd be good.
I know, I always think I'm going to have something in the beginning before we start, or something to just so people can listen to something other than us ramble.
Looks like nobody else is responding, so I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Any final words, Brooke?
I don't think so. I guess just reiterating to let people, if you're interested again in the CWP coalition or virtual trainings, just reach out to me and I'll make sure to get coordinated with you. I'm probably going to try to swing by townships a little bit more this year. I was trying to do that before COVID a bit, and so I'd like to get back in the habit of just kind of swinging by and seeing how everything's going, seeing if I can help you on the fly and look at different things. So if you want me to come by, let me know. I might still swing by even if you don't ask me to, but that's just so I can, just because I haven't seen anybody in a while. So just reach out. We're here to help, and if we can, and do whatever.
Yep. Thank you again. With that, I think we'll adjourn until next time. Appreciate your time and respect your time. So stay safe out there and
Yep.
Have a good day.